All right, guys, welcome back to Building Great Sales Teams. Today, I've got a special guest for you guys. I've got David Rush in the house. He's the founder and CEO of SmallWorld. This is a relationship activation platform that unlocks more warm introductions. Thousands of users are driving growth with the platform. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Doug. Great to be here.
Man, so this is a touchy subject for salespeople alike because, a lot of us, me being from door to door and then eventually getting into consulting for home services and small businesses, a lot of salespeople are tired of beating their head against the wall when it comes to cold outreach. But it's part of every sales program that I've ever built. It's an essential part of the process. And so I guess my question is, which kind of leads to a solution for cold outreach, why Small World?
Yeah. Well, if we think about, sales, I think it's, typically because of either timing or trust, right? So the cold outreach, you're clearly hoping that your timing is right, that you connect with that prospect at the right time when they're looking to solve a problem, or you are, particularly smart about how you position the problem that they didn't even know that they had. Trust is one of these other parts of the sales process that unlocks doors that's sort of been underutilized to date. And so when we think about trust, it's a previous experience with somebody. It's somebody that you, either know professionally or personally. And so that can create, instant connectivity in a way that, timing just can't. And so what we're doing at Small World is we're helping companies operationalize this and unlock trust at scale so that they take advantage of those relationships that already exist across their entire business, whether it's a customer, partner, executive, anyone that they bring into the system. And that's the opportunity that, we're really capitalizing on to help companies grow faster.
Okay, so I definitely understand the premise of the platform and the idea behind the warm introductions. I just don't understand quite the execution. So I was checking out the website earlier, and basically part of the demo was me getting an email to be introduced to this prospect, essentially. And I guess, where does the warm part come in?
Yeah. Well, when we think about the way this works today, it's typically really manual. It's somebody getting an unexpected email. It's me maybe using a professional connection as the clue that there's a real relationship that exists. And so when we think about how great LinkedIn is, and it is great, it still isn't a great determinant as to whether I know someone. The research has shown over 80% of all connections on LinkedIn aren't real relationships. So we have a unique way of confirming the strength of that relationship directly from the connectors, because we're able to retrieve that relationship strength for only people that are relevant to the sales team. So that's one way that we're able to really make it not only a better user experience for the person being asked to make the warm introduction, so they're not getting irrelevant requests anymore, but also for the sales team, there's a common language. And so because there's now a common language created, that process of asking for and receiving becomes consistent. And there's visibility from when the introduction is requested all the way through to when a deal actually closes. So something else we found was these connectors like to know what happens after they make introductions. And so we did it on the status. So by building a system of record around all this, it really delivers a better user experience for every constituent involved.
Man, this is like a way more intentional referral app. I mean, that's and I tend to dumb things down a little bit for my audience, you know what I mean, and for myself, honestly. It's me talking through it out loud. But that is a big issue, especially like in home services and small businesses. Is I refer somebody to somebody else, and I never know what happens afterwards. But the idea that there's an intentional and maybe even automated, I'm assuming, system that's going to send it back to me and let me know how that worked out. And does it tie into like referral fees or anything, or kickbacks or anything like that?
Yeah. And the goodwill that gets established, when that happens, is meaningful. So the referral fees, the incentives, we look at it in two ways. One, there's the intangible incentive through just making it easier to make introductions and sort of the experience of having that visibility. And then the tangible incentive we're finding companies now introducing employee referral programs that don't just include new hires, for example, but also include new business. So those employees become eligible for commissions, or customer referral programs now include some sort of a incentive tied to it that could be a discount off of their contract,
Right.
whatever it might be. And so we really leave that up to our customers to decide, but it all can be accounted for, reported against, and rewarded against through the data that we're producing in our system.
Yeah, I love that because it made sense to me. One salesperson for maybe one software that wasn't competing with another software being that warm connector, that warm introduction. Because in general, you all in networking, in sales, in business, you always want to be giving referrals and not really expecting anything in return to deepen relationships, right? But then the
Yep.
idea that employees can do the same thing with their network and their relationship and their history at different companies and stuff like that, and be incentivized monetarily makes a lot of sense too. I love that y'all made that connection, not just with sales to sales, but sales to operations, fulfillment, customer service, and everything in between. So that's massive. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we talked about before we jumped on was, our inboxes are flooded with, AI technology and emails and phone calls, drop, what do you call it? Straight to voicemail messages, stuff like that. And so, like in my case, a lot of my clients are on Facebook and Instagram, right? And so LinkedIn isn't somewhere that I go a lot. It's definitely somewhere I post resources and stuff like that, and definitely continue the authority there. But I don't even look at the inbox. My VA is looking at my inbox, and so I guess this is also a way to kind of get through the inbox.
Yeah, and I think with AI, it's got a lot of pluses, and that the way in which structure of an email, consistency of the way that it's written, the content will include specific things, but buyers are going to quickly be able to identify those that have been generated through AI and are sent with this lack of authenticity. They haven't been authored with any customization that really has been thoughtful by that person. And again, it comes back to trust. If you think about any transaction, ultimately that trust becomes so important. And so when you create automation and create the ability to scale something, the dangers of polluting what once was a good thing can happen, and that has started to happen. It's become harder and harder for salespeople to get those introductory meetings. The benefit of a relationship is one where there's trust that unlocks access, and it unlocks access into, like I said, senior level people. But those meetings happen within a week or two. They don't happen 6 to 8 weeks later after 5 and 6 cold emails. So that's the other big benefit, is it just accelerates the time in which you can access the right person as well.
No, I definitely love that. I know that when it comes to AI, at first it was, oh, this is really cool. Like we can write a whole campaign, and then now it's become to the point of, hey, I'm going to give you every blog and every article I've ever written, and then I want you to write in my persona. So it's kind of hard to even see past that now. But again, it's going to give more people more reasons to flood the inboxes, and then what's going to come up is that connector, like you said, where, all right, I know this person, they're in my inbox for a reason, and they're introducing me to somebody else that can potentially help my business grow because we already have a
Yep.
relationship in place. They know my business. That's definitely a warm lead I'm going to want to get on an appointment with or get on a call with. So, all that being said, I know this is heavy in the SaaS industry. What about how would a small business or a medium-sized business be able to use this?
Yeah, I mean, we work with some early stage, growth stage companies as well that are,
Okay.
still seeking to create some brand recognition. Maybe they're, quickly growing, but companies, don't know who they are. They have it even harder than the brand names, where doors are opened up because they have a strong brand. In those cases, their boards of directors are leaning in more typically. Their executives are willing to be more tactical and help open those doors. And so it's a sweet spot for us. Their networks of connectors are smaller because we're typically working with, their internal networks, but it certainly is a strong use case because, frankly, it's even harder for some of those smaller to mid-sized companies to get access to the people that they want to. Doug, I think you just went on mute there.
I was saying we got to pause for a second. We're going to check the settings real quick. Check. Yeah, it's still there. You hearing something? Okay. Sorry about that. We don't.
That's right.
Had over like 150 guests and never had this many audio issues.
I hear you just fine.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I was on with a consultant earlier that mainly handles SaaS companies. He builds out the sales programs for them. And one of the things that he was saying is it's not just about, the BDR reps getting to the individual that's the decision maker. They also, once you get to the account executive, they need to start working on developing those relationships with the board. Have you seen SmallWorld kind of be used to develop those relationships as well? Is it using the decision maker to develop the relationship, or is it kind of going around and making the connection in another way?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's with most sales cycles today, depending on the size of the transaction, there are buying committees. They're multi-threaded relationships in many cases, and so one of the big benefits of our system as well is you're able to identify who those team members should be for any particular deal based on the relationships that they have within a particular account. And so it informs, who you want to align with internally and then who you want as part of your deal team. And it might be one board member, one partner, one colleague, and they all have got relationships in 3 different buying centers in the one target account that you're seeking. And so, today that becomes a little bit of a mystery for a salesperson as they try to assemble that team. And through, our system, we make that process really easy.
Now that makes a ton of sense. So I'm in a mastermind called Apex, right? And one of the key courses in the mastermind is called Building Your Machine. And so what you do with that course is essentially you intentionally engage with social media for your prospect. And what happens is that your prospect, because you're engaging, you're commenting on their social media, they see what you're posting and what you're saying more and more and more. And so you become somewhat of an authority in whatever your business is. And so I could see how, if I had my hands on that data, because that data would be amazing, right? How I could create influence outside of the sales process just through normal posting on LinkedIn. Because now I'm connecting with that person. We obviously have mutual connections because the decision maker is the connection. I may not even execute the warm introduction right away. I may create some authority first where they're seeing my post or engaging with it, or I'm commenting on theirs. And then I execute on that warm introduction. And now it's even warmer on top of that because they've seen my content.
Sure. Yeah. Because your introduction comes with, credibility and domain expertise.
Okay. So I have a client right now. They're based out of Austin. And so what they do is they do with the R2V3 recycling for companies, school districts, stuff like that. And their target is the technology director of these school districts or college campuses. And essentially they want to recycle all their old technology and either refurbish it and sell it, or they recycle it responsibly, right? And in turn, that school district gets to use the R2V3 logo. And so it's a really good program. Plus the school district gets to share in the profit from that refurbishing and selling and everything. So how would SmallWorld execute on that? I know that my target is the technology director for these school districts. I need to start that conversation, get an appointment with them, in addition to, already pulling the data from my CRM. I guess where does it get is it using LinkedIn profiles? Where does it get the connection from?
Yeah, so we pull data in a few different ways. So we'll, one, use our own sort of intelligence to look at things like work history and recommendations on LinkedIn and other data
Okay.
sources to sort of seed the content. But then we give those connectors, so those are the people with, connected to that business, the
Hmm.
opportunity to upload their relationships into SmallWorld. And that would include LinkedIn, Gmail, personal CRM. We're data agnostic in terms of where those relationships come from. But
Hmm.
once those relationships are in the system, what we would do is we would surface those people that fit the ICP of who you're targeting. So technology
Hmm.
directors, at those, particular schools would be
Yeah.
the ones that you would be asked to rate the relationships with. So you might have, 10,000 relationships uploaded into the system, but maybe only 19 that are a direct hit with who they're seeking to
Hmm.
meet. So then, your rating those takes, all of 10 seconds. And so it's just a really quick way to really identify where you could help make an introduction.
And I would imagine, you're giving access to your contacts, and that's how the upload happens. And then from there, you go into Small World, and you're able to rate those relationships.
Exactly. That's right. And then that by rating them, you bring more fidelity to your network. You send a signal to the salesperson where you do have a strong or very strong relationship. You essentially communicate as well if there's a very weak relationship there, and avoid
Right.
irrelevant requests. And
Okay.
then, where we see strong and very strong relationships, we'll be doing some really interesting things with third degree relationships. So if we think about it, if you and I had a, very strong relationship, in theory, I'm probably going to be more willing to help you maybe even get introduced to a former company of mine because I know people there. Um, uh, because you and I have a very strong relationship,
Hmm.
someone who I might not know, but that you have a very strong relationship with, myself and this other person indirectly now probably have a relationship because you trust us both, right? So we've got some really interesting ways that we're going to use our first party data to create, what should be paths of engagement that today I wouldn't see as an individual user.
No, that makes a ton of sense and is really savvy in the way that you guys are approaching it too. Because, when I think about how I'm doing that now, the way that I'm doing that now is connection calls within my network, you know, and every probably once a quarter, I'll put it out there on social media like, hey, if you want to connect or you want to learn about VAs, you want to learn about sales process, you want to learn about podcasting, these are things I'm very deep in and would love to share. So I get on a connection call with them, and it creates that initial connection that you're talking about. But then what's happening with your software is, all right, your prospect is now connected to the person that you had the connection call with. So now there's the warm introduction. So
Yep.
it it magnifies that work that I'm doing initially, and then it sounds like long term could even get rid of some of it. Honestly,
Yep.
make it less manual.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with Small World, who are you guys recognizing as your ideal client, and why are they set up to obtain the biggest benefit from Small World?
I think our ideal customer is one that already is attempting to get the most out of referrals and warm introductions, but doing it on a spreadsheet today.
Okay.
They've got executives who are leaning in. They've got advisory growth boards that are willing to help, but perhaps there's not a great way to account for all of it. And we're replacing an antiquated manual process with a better solution and a less expensive solution. Companies that are looking to be more efficient with their spend, who have invested a lot into large BDR teams, are investing
Hmm.
a lot into pipeline development, but are in a situation where they're looking to do more with less. I think we do very well. Vertically, we're working across different verticals, but mostly in technology, some in consulting. We work with
Hmm.
revenue leaders in terms of the personas, both in marketing and sales. ABM teams really embrace what we're doing, and executive engagement teams, of course. But yeah, we like I said earlier, work with growth stage all the way up to publicly traded, companies that are, really keen on making this an important part of their demand gen strategy.
No, I love it. And as we talk about this more and more, I'm realizing this is going to be a great solution for my client, and definitely going to introduce him to it. So what's next for you guys? I mean, this I feel like is just the first layer of the onion with y'all's technology that you're using now. Is there some other applications, or is there like a 2.0, 3.0 that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, just delighting our existing customers with the best user experience we can. So we're focused on listening intently to them. We have a Salesforce integration, so making sure that we're delivering that same experience in Salesforce as we are in our standalone platform. I mentioned it just a bit ago, but we're in a position to really reveal some third-degree relationships and relationships that otherwise would have been hidden through data that we've captured, which we're excited about. And we'll be creating sort of an extended network with infinite possibilities beyond just the ecosystem of your business, but into, when we think about a true small world, someone knows the person that you're seeking to meet. Someone knows that person really well. And our
Right.
mission is to be able to help our customers engage with literally any target prospect, any company. If we can build the technology to present that path and the tools to do it in an elegant way, we'll deliver on our mission.
That reminds me of something that I've heard before, like we're all 5 degrees or 5 relationships away from the president or something like that. Isn't that a pretty common saying? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that when you said that, it makes a ton of sense. And making those connections, I mean, there's just huge benefits in that. I mean, obviously business wise, but just, long-term relationship wise. 100%.
Yep.
Okay. So we asked the same question of every one of our guests, and this is selfishly a question that I asked for my own research. I'm very passionate about legacy and what it means to everybody, and then what legacy do they want to leave behind. So last 2 questions: legacy, what does it mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I mean, I look at legacy as something that's memorable, once you've passed, and something that endures, that teaches the next generation to be better than your generation was.
Hmm.
Sounds kind of corny, but I guess that's how I think about it. I've got kids, so if I could leave a legacy for them that they are proud of, that's probably what it means to me.
No, I love it. It's simple, pure in motive, and entirely achievable. Well, David, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your product Small World with us. I think it's going to be in huge demand. I mean, I'm sure it already is. I imagine in a world where AI is taking over more and more, we're looking for more of that human connection, and even through another software, we can find it again. I think it's going to be incredibly important, especially in the sales process. So, thanks again for coming on the show, brother.
I appreciate you having me, Doug. Great to be with you.
All right, let's get building. David, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your product Small World with us. I think it's going to be in huge demand. I mean, I'm sure it already is. I imagine in a world where AI is taking over more and more, we're looking for more of that human connection, and even through another software, we can find it again. I think it's going to be incredibly important, especially in the sales process. So, thanks again for coming on the show, brother.
I appreciate you having me, Doug. Great to be with you.
All right, let's get building.